I am Anthony Newbold. Welcome to the show. My guest this week is the Honorable Desmond Bannister, the Minister of Public Works, as we talk about infrastructure. Minister, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, sir. It's good to be here.
We're going to talk about infrastructure, but first, BPL is part of your remit as well. You had a fire a couple of days ago in Bimini. What's the update?
It was unfortunate in Bimini to see what happened. Bimini has sufficient generation for the needs of that community. We lost 2 generators during the fire. We have 5 more generators, and we are working with the community to ensure that the power in Bimini is adequate. What happened in Bimini is that right after the Memorial Day holiday, we had an experience that caused severe challenges with generation. And as a result, we had a fire in Station A. And that fire caused us to lose all of the power in Bimini. But we had some very experienced BPL technicians on hand, 4 or 5 of them that have at least 30 years experience. And as a result, immediately after the fire was over, they were able to bring power back on in Baileytown. And by 10:30 the following morning, we had power in Allistown. Now, there's still some challenges in South Bimini, and we continue to work to ensure that we are going to be able to have stable power throughout Bimini.
Whatever happened, whatever caused the fire, you're comfortable that you have precautions, you have a situation where you can prevent that if possible, or is that something that you couldn't have possibly anticipated?
It's a challenge with these power plants. I was in Gibraltar just 3 weeks ago. They lost their entire electrical infrastructure to a fire. So these fires are not that unusual. But what we are doing now is taking measures, preventative measures, and also measures to ensure that if there is a challenge with respect to fires, that we are going to be able to deal with it appropriately.
Let's come. Go ahead.
So you're going to see, for example, in the new plant in New Providence, that if there is a challenge at all, which we don't expect, we don't anticipate at all, but if there is a challenge, there is a process for immediate shutdown, and there is a process for isolation. We anticipate that we are going to be able to do this in many of the family islands also. But the challenge in the family islands has always been, and quite frankly, this challenge in New Providence has always been that the country has not paid sufficient attention to the electrical infrastructure. Our electrical infrastructure is decades behind. Transmission and distribution challenges are very difficult to be able to ensure that we can transmit power as we would like in New Providence. It's been a huge challenge.
You got
that
some
BPL is working on.
You got some new engines now.
Oh.
They're on the ground.
We have some amazing engines. We have 7 new Wärtsilä engines, and those engines are as big as a house. We expect that in the next week you're going to see them transported to Clifton, and you're going to see a turnaround in your electrical generation.
By the end of the year?
Yeah, definitely.
I'm saying by the end of the year because over the last, I'd say, 25 years, I've covered enough commissionings to last me a lifetime. We still have problems.
I don't know that you have. I don't know that you've covered that many commissionings. Remember now, we've lost generators at Clifton that were installed in the 1980s.
Yeah.
Those generators were, and I gave this example to a group that I spoke to last week. Just imagine you bought a car in 1983, and you started driving that car on the morning that you drove it out of the lot, and you drove it all day, and then you drove it all night, and you never stopped, and you just kept driving it for almost 40 years. That is the situation that we've had with those generators.
Yeah.
The minister who commissioned those generators was the Honorable Loftus Roker when he was Minister with Responsibility for Works in the 1980s. So there is a huge challenge when you have generators that are almost 40 years old, and providing power for your major city.
But you've had engines replaced here and there into the system.
We have a few. We have the system in Blue Hills is a little bit more modern, but we have not spent the time and attention that we ought to for that electrical infrastructure. This is the first time you're going to see it happen on a large scale in this century. That does not speak well to our focus on what is important for electricity. But as a result of what is happening now, you're going to see a change in your tariffs. You're going to see a lower electricity costs, and you're going to see more reliable power generation.
You're going to do you're talking about the Family Islands. I understand you have some plan for introducing renewables to the Family Islands.
Yes.
Tell me something about that.
Over the next few months, basically on a monthly basis, we are going to roll out requests for proposals for persons who are interested in generating power by renewable means. Now, that's not simply solar. That's any type of renewable measures, whether you can do it by tidal, whether you can do it by any other means. We want to be able to find the cleanest power we can at the most reasonable costs, and we want to be able to encourage entrepreneurs who want to get into power generation business and who are able to sell that power to BPL to go in the grid. So it's going to be a wonderful opportunity for some of our young entrepreneurs who have been just eager to get into power generation business. But there are also going to be opportunities to create clean power and renewable energy in many of the forms that you see in some of the more progressive countries.
Going to talk some more about that later, but let's get to infrastructure. Sure. And you think infrastructure, you think building, you think roads. First of all, it's capital works. I initially thought that you had like $299 million last year for your budget. But think about that, because we got to take
I'm going to go and pray for that.
You're going to pray for it.
Yes.
We got to take a break. We're going to come back and talk some more about that, and we'll be back after this. Welcome back to A Closer Look. I'm Anthony Newbold, speaking with the Minister responsible for Public Works, the Honorable Desmond Bannister, talking about your budget.
Yes,
and I thought you had $299 million this year, but you didn't have that. And I understand you're getting even less for the coming fiscal year.
Yes, but I want you to keep saying 299
million.
And the Minister of Finance, I hope that he hears you, and maybe next year I'll be able to get some that type of funding. This past year we had $120 million for capital works. It looks like in the upcoming year we will have $93 million, and that is in keeping with the government's fiscal policy with respect to restraint and responsibility. So I understand that. At the same time, capital needs in this country are critical. We have not paid the kind of attention to capital infrastructure that we need to over the years. And so we're going to have to ensure that we keep our projects moving, and we have a number of projects that we're going to keep moving, as well as introduce some new ones that are going to continue to improve the quality of life for Bahamians. So, for example, if you want to go into the Exuma Keys, Baritari is the gateway to the Keys. Mm-hmm. And you're going to see, when you go into Baritari now, you're going to see an amazing new dock. You're going to see a seawall, fantastic, that's going to protect the community. You're going to see new culverts coming in. You're going to see the type of environment that is going to make your entry into the Keys just palatable and amazing.
Yeah, let's stay in Nassau for a minute, because
Sure.
I imagine a large, if not the largest portion of your budgetary allocations would revolve around New Providence, especially some roadworks.
We have started, as you noticed, we have made amazing inroads in the roadworks this year. Bahamix has done just a fantastic job. We have invested $5 million in a state-of-the-art machinery for Bahamix. And so we anticipate that this upcoming year, we're going to be able to do even more roadworks than we have been able to do in the past. We look to tackle the huge challenges, for example, that we have on Village Road. Village Road really ought to be a gateway into the city. And you're going to see us transform Village Road in a manner that people who are going to utilize that road on a daily basis are going to be able to enjoy themselves. You're going to see a transformation of Gladstone Road.
Yes.
So that once our engineering studies are finished, we anticipate that you're going to be able to have 2 lanes in either direction on Gladstone Road, so that you can speed up the traffic there, and those long lines that you see hopefully will be a thing of the past.
You also have some resurfacing going on in the west.
We have not just resurfacing, we have redone West Bay Street, starting at Blake Road. The water infrastructure there for many, many years was a huge problem. That has all been finished now, and there's an entirely new road surface there now. If you drive your car on there, they tell me it's like glass, and it was done in such a way that the businesses there appreciate it.
Yeah,
They did not lose their business. There were no disruptions. Work was done mostly at night. Homeowners were very comfortable, and whenever I go out in that area, people are very, very complimentary about it. So we continue to do that type of work, and we've done that all through this island. But you go on Bernard Road, you'll see it. You go on East-West Highway, you will see it. On Darling Highway, you'll see it. You go on Milo Butler Highway, you'll see it.
You're extending Milo Butler Highway?
The Prime Minister has announced that we are going to proceed with the original plan for Milo Butler Highway, which requires it to go from the stoplights where the stoplights currently are and go straight through the Carmichael constituency to Cowpen Road. And that is going to ensure that people coming off Cowpen Road can get on the highway and come straight through into town. That's going to be a wonderful extension.
Even with all these new roads, traffic is still a nightmare, and could be.
Sure.
Is there some plan to manage traffic? Did you get some traffic management plan?
Absolutely.
Somewhere?
You're going to see, and all of this is, we're putting all of this together so it comes together as a whole. You've started to see us changing traffic lights in strategic locations. We're going to continue to change those traffic lights. And you'll also notice that those traffic lights have been put on power backup systems, so that if power goes off, the traffic lights are still going to operate. But what we are also creating is a system of automated traffic lights. And so when this whole system has come together, we are going to have a control room at the Ministry of Public Works, where we can control the operation of traffic lights. And so if a particular time traffic is heavy in certain areas or from a particular direction, we can extend the time or we can shorten the time. We are going to be able to electronically manage.
So somebody's actually going to be monitoring what's going on?
Well, we're going to have a remote system. So this is not necessarily an individual doing it. The way things are going to work is the way they work in major cities. And so there are sensors that will tell you how much traffic is there. And if those sensors indicate that there's a tremendous amount of traffic, they will trigger the operation of the system so that you can have sufficient time for the lights.
Right now, who's responsible for the traffic lights?
That's another responsibility of the Ministry of Public Works. I call it the Ministry of Everything. I don't know if you noticed that, but we have responsibility for infrastructure generally, and we have, over the past few years, those traffic lights were contracted out, their maintenance. The ministry is now taking full responsibility for the lights, and you're going to see a huge difference.
So if the traffic light is off on some road that I'm traveling, I can call the Ministry of Works?
That's right. You call our hotline. Bahamians have been calling us whenever there have been challenges, and we've been responding. But on that note, and I keep saying this in public, we have to foster a greater degree of responsibility among our public. There have been too many traffic lights that people have just knocked down, just driven by and running to 40, 50, 70 miles per hour, and totally destroyed. Recently, we had a traffic control box that somebody hit, and hit it so hard that it ended up on the roof of a church. So there is a degree of responsibility that we have to say to our people, let's ensure that when we get these wonderful new items of infrastructure, that we continue to take care of them as a responsible people do. And I want to just emphasize that that is critical for us to do.
Let's go back to the family islands you were talking about, Exuma.
Oh,
You're going to build an airport over there?
We're looking to build 4 airports. This is exciting. The Minister of Tourism is looking to spend some $40 million on a state-of-the-art airport in Exuma that is going to be able to deal with the huge influx of tourists we expect in Exuma.
That's his budget, not yours.
Well, everything comes through works now. He's the ideas man, but we have to make it happen. So the architects have been working on it and the engineers are working on it. But in tandem with that, North Eleuthera is going to get a new airport. And the North Eleuthera airport, has been a huge challenge. But they have huge movements of private traffic, private air traffic, going into persons coming into North Eleuthera to go into Harbour Island. Mm-hmm. And so we are going to have twin airports in North Eleuthera and in Exuma. We also started the airport in the Berry Islands. The contractor's been mobilized. So the Berry Islands, when you go down there, you see the amount of air traffic you have in there. That is the first one that's getting physically moving. And then you also have Long Island.
Yes.
And Long Islanders, I know they're going to be excited. We're going to have to do a whole lot of planning in Long Island because when you go into Long Island, you'll see that at certain times, people actually have to come across the runway. People live on the other side of the runway. Yeah. And they have to actually come across the runway at certain times of the day. So that is going to be an interesting challenge, how we coordinate that, how we plan that, how we develop ancillary roads. These are the challenges that our engineers love. And we have amazing engineers.
And we're going to talk some more about those amazing engineers. And stay in the family islands for a minute before we come back, but we got to take this final break, and we'll be back with more closer look at the Minister of Public Works after this. Welcome back to A Closer Look. I'm Anthony Newbo, speaking with Minister Desmond Bannister, the Minister responsible for Public Works. We're in the Family Islands. Mm-hmm. You finally got started on Ragged Island. What's happening out there?
I wouldn't say finally. Ragged Island required some planning. Mm-hmm. And I think it's important for all of us to appreciate that the Ministry of Public Works does not just go out there, throw something in the ground. We have to plan appropriately so that we can meet the challenges of the weather. If you remember after the hurricane going into Ragged Island, the airport in Ragged Island, if you looked at where it was in less than 1 foot of loose soil. Mm-hmm. So there was no infrastructure going down into the rocks in Ragged Island. And so any wind came along, you expected that airport to go. They're going to have appropriate infrastructure that's been designed for Ragged Island by architects and engineers who know what they're doing. This upcoming year, we're going to put out for tender, school building, so that they can have the appropriate schools for the community, a teacher's facility, a police facility and clinic, and a community administrative office. All of that is not going to be built overnight, but we are going to begin to tender the work. The contractors will be able to bid on the work, and then the work will start in this community. And when it's finished, you're going to have a pretty strong storm to damage or to destroy these buildings. And that's the way it should have been. We ought to have gotten into Ragged Island, and when I say we, I mean successive governments, ought to have gotten into Ragged Island before that storm was able to create the havoc that it created. And we have this challenge in many of our family islands.
Many of your family islands?
Yes, many.
There's an airport in Cat Island that was being discussed. Is there anything happening with that?
Those 4 airports are the ones that we are going to focus on right now. We are also completing some work on the San Salvador airport right now. And remember now, when I'm talking about $80 million, for example, just in 2 airports, you're talking about another between $10 to $15 million between those other 2 airports. We have to be very, very careful with how we spend the Bahamian people's money, because we're going to be accountable for it. And so we cannot get everything done at the same time. We're going to focus on those that are priorities. The government has a report by Stantec, which provided outlines and guidelines for which airports are the most critical ones, and we're following that report. But I'm excited. You're talking about Family Islands. Please tell your wife that Staniet Creek Andros is going to have an amazing bridge.
Okay.
So that she can be able to go home to her home whenever she wants, and she's going to go across one of the fantastic bridge.
You got some roadworks going on in Andros, some more planned as well?
We've got roadworks going on in Andros. Most of it is wrapping up right now. There is still a need for us to reconstruct the road that goes into Red Bays. And there's also a huge need for roadworks in South Andros.
What about Abaco?
Currently in Abaco, we have 2 major road projects going on. The Stink Pond Road, that I told you we're going to change the name of that place to Sweet Pond. We're doing a few $1 million worth of work there. We're creating culverts so that the water can flow naturally under the highway. At the Ernest, on the other side, that's in North Abaco. In South Abaco, on the Ernest Dean Highway, there were challenges with the undulations there. We have work going on there so that I think that's a little over $4 million. And the Prime Minister will soon be in Elbow Key. The Doan Road, which has been virtually destroyed in one part, there's a threat that Hopetown, that area for Hopetown, Elbow Key area could split in half. We're doing some amazing work there. That is going to be about $5 million worth of work. And when that is finished, you're going to see the beauty restored of those elevations in Hopetown, and that whole beach area that's been eroding and has actually taken away the road, half of the road. You're going to see that restored to the state where Abaconians and Bahamians can be very, very proud.
And we were talking about Family Islands, we were talking about Ragged Island, the hurricane.
Yes.
Isn't some of your work need to be focused on preparing for hurricanes?
Yes.
Whether it's underground work.
The Ministry of Public Works had a hurricane plan for many years. Last year we revised that plan. And early in the year, long before hurricane season comes, that plan is distributed. We have an officer in the ministry who's responsible for hurricane readiness. There are checks that we do that nobody's aware of as we're doing them. We're cleaning drains, we're cutting trees, we're dealing with the utilities. All of that is going on as we speak, very, very quietly. But the minute there's a threat of a hurricane, all of those operations go right into place. And so I want to thank my staff for the fantastic job they're doing. Mr. Bradley King has been in charge of that for quite a long time, and they are doing a fantastic job.
So public should expect a very busy fiscal year from the Ministry of Public Works in 2019, 2020.
Well, the Ministry of Public Works is always busy. I like to tell people that we keep things going in this country. It's important. We do it quietly. We do it professionally. And I'll tell you, we've gotten another 21. This is what excites me. We've gotten 21 young Bahamian technical professionals, architects, engineers. Mm-hmm. We want some more quantity surveyors who are coming into the ministry now and who are going to make their impact on this country. Young professional Bahamians who all want to do something for their country. And so it's become so good now. You heard my plea for the last 2 years that we are having difficulty finding places for them in the ministry. But you're going to see the innovation that comes from these young Bahamian minds, people who have been looking at their country, growing up here, and who appreciate the need to continue to see this island and this country emerge infrastructurally.
Thank you very much, Minister. And at the first opportunity, once you're done with some of this stuff, we want to invite you back to come talk with us some more.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. And I'm really, really fortunate to be able to serve as the Minister of Public Works and to serve with an amazing group of professionals.
Thank you, Minister, for sitting with me. And thank you for watching A Closer Look. You can also watch us on Facebook and YouTube.